So guys, we're gonna get started. Appreciate coming. Thank you all for coming. Really appreciate you coming to the event, and also thanks for coming to the workshop. I'll try and be as open and honest. Share some examples, and if there's any questions people have along the way, feel free to just reach out and raise your hand. Just to capture the sound, if you just want to speak into the microphone, and we'll bring it over. So I'm Dave, and this is Kelly. How's it going? I'm VP of Finance for Bright Idea. I came through working with KPMG in Australia for about 6 years. So if you don't understand any of my words, please let me know, and Kelly will translate. And then from there, I sort of took a career with Matricon, sort of industrial IT company, focused on actually implementing and putting in projects for big companies, sort of consulting, and also putting in technology to realize like real benefits for like mining, oil and gas, power utilities, stuff like that. So it's kind of my background, and then I got sick of traveling, had a family, and actually the company I was working for was bought by Honeywell, and I wanted to kind of make an impact, and I'd always had a passion for innovation, and I figured I could make an impact going back into finance with Bright Ideas. So that's kind of why I'm here. But I've sort of sat on your side of the fence, and also back into keeping score with the finances. So. And Kelly, she works with Bright Idea as well. She's helped with a lot of the data that's we've got in here, a lot of the analysis that we've done, and is also very bright and will help me out with some of the questions as well. So thanks for coming. So who has ever done any sort of ROI calculation before? Put up your hand. Okay, you can come up the front. That's perfect. Yeah, that's great. Everyone was happy with the results? Was there any issues? Yeah. Who has no experience? Oh wow, geez, that's good. And who's somewhere in between? Who's like sort of a novice-y? Okay, cool, perfect. You all did an ROI to come to this conference, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. What I'll try and do today is just give you some practical feedback and some real examples. It's really, an hour isn't actually that a very long time to go into detail, so we'll do the best I can. If you have any questions or burning questions along the way, I'll answer them, and you can also reach out to me afterwards or reach out to us afterwards. Be happy to share any of the materials and that we had today. What we'll focus on is why do we bother with ROI? I mean, we're doing innovation. Let's focus on getting innovation and making the companies better. Let's build an actual fully loaded innovation budget. I've provided some examples of actual real real outcomes by app. So some examples for people that you can kind of take away and plug in your numbers and to kind of make it easier. I've come at it from a finance person, so I've defended projects before and got them up and going and had to defend them again. So I can give you some feedback for that, because you might find you might be defending the program at some stage. So how to do some ongoing reporting, recording projections, outcomes, and Bright Idea, and some resources you can keep going with. So here's some insights that we found. And some realities. So your job is extremely important. The odds are that your company, if it's on the S&P 500 today, won't be in 7 years. Okay, so that's the average length of your company or company's sort of life. And big companies do go out of business. So innovation and helping them stay there is your job, which is awesome. And so it's very important. It's very important. A lot of people's jobs are on the line. A lot of, Yahoo was a $40 billion company. It's now a $4 billion company. Sports Authority, I don't know if you know, the retail store, just closed, gave up, right? No longer exists. So it can happen. and you guys are really at the forefront to helping, stay there. So you guys are heroes. I looked at Steve Healy's presentation yesterday. That was amazing to me. Like I thought it's second nature. That's fantastic. You can actually have spectacular results. It's a bad analogy, but maybe drug cartel results. You probably can't get a better return than that. But for every $1, $75 to the business. If you could guarantee that to anyone, and no wonder Steve's program's been around for over 10 years and successful. And actually, we have data that says that sort of the top performing programs, the one that are running, over 10, 20 challenges type things a year, are actually getting those sort of returns. Like that's not unheard of. It's actually quite common for the sort of top 10% across all our customer base, which is kind of proofs in the pudding there. So it's really important, and you're doing a great job. Everyone's happy, but does anyone know what that is? Oh, wow. Okay, so this is called, it's not a monster, it's called Tasmanian tiger, okay? And what's special about Tasmanian tiger? And there's a clue in the picture. Well, first of all, it's Australian, that's really important, but that wasn't a clue. No. It's extinct, okay? Unfortunately, Australia is responsible for 1/3 of the world's mammal extinctions. So be careful. I'll try not make that happen. But why that's important is just to touch on it. About 20% of innovation programs go away every year, okay? And the main reason is because it's basically because they weren't showing value, okay? They weren't articulating value to the business. So there's a risk of it. That said, why is that happening? Is because people don't understand the value they're providing. A simple one is who's in HR? Who sits in HR in the organisation? Anyone? Okay, so who sits in marketing? Who sits in, like reports through marketing? Who sits, like, these are kind of a spread of all the customers, but everyone's sort of, it's a new thing. Innovation is a new thing. It's not really well understood. No one knows the great work that you're doing, okay? So it's a net new activity. And some of the problems might be is, the reason people's stuff go away is it's probably caused by events out of your control. You can be doing a good job, but, whose company's had a bad quarter at any stage? Right? Okay, and does everyone's got to panic and budgets get frozen and stuff like that? All of a sudden you get accountants, and they're not necessarily good guys like me, who are kind of looking for ways to save and what can we cut, what's not important, what's not core business. So that, you might have a great CEO who's really supportive, you might have a great exec who's really supportive, and then they get promoted. And they're not in charge of that, they're not defending anymore, or they get headhunted, right? So it can happen, and one of the things that's happening is people are armed with more and more data every single day now. So think of the marketing guys who used to basically say, oh yeah, we'll put up a billboard and look at it. It's doing great returns, right? But now they have Google Analytics, and they can say, oh, well, for every $1 we spent, we got $3 back, and they have these real data they're putting up. So people are fighting for dollars, fighting for existence, and they have real data around it. So. And then one of the disadvantages that we have is that it takes about 6 months, usually on average, from the data to actually start getting results from the ideas. It might be a big impact. It might take 6 months. So people are saying, well, what have you done? Oh, well, in 6 months' time, we'll have good results, but it just takes a little bit of time. So, and this is an example of a successful program, sort of showing what it's showing is it's quite successful, right? In 3 years, it's returned sort of $3 million. This program sort of ran 5 challenges in their first year, but because of the lag, it took them actually like 14 months to break even, right, on their time. So once you get going, you provide tremendous returns, right? This is, I think it's about $9 return for every one. But if someone came to look at the program here, they say, oh, you haven't returned anything to the business. So just some sort of real life picture. That said, how do we? Any questions so far? Make sense? Yeah. So That said, though, this is something that we can use to. ROI is sort of a tool. We actually have fantastic ROI in our programs. Okay, if we just know how to look at it. So I just thought I'd just talk about some of the components. So really, ROI, it's the return from investment, less the cost on the project over the costs that you actually spent on the project. So if I spend $1, am I getting 20 cents back? Am I getting $1.20? Am I getting $9? That sort of thing. And then, so what are some of the things? So returns. So this is the incremental revenues, new products, new services, cost savings that you might find. One-off project costs. So there's the cost of setting up an innovation program. Might be ongoing costs of the program. The time period's important because you got to look at, you probably want to get returns within kind of 3 years, right? Otherwise, you start looking at other things. There's a cost of capital, which is the cost of using your organization's money. So typically, they'll ask you if they're going to give you $1 million. They'll say, okay, cool. But if we put that $1 million somewhere else, we need some money on that. So it's kind of like the rate that your organization's charging you. So if the more time you take, to return, they're going to start charging you interest basically on your money. And then, so you might have heard of net present value. So that's the returns of your project taking into account the kind of cost of capital. So, for instance, if you borrow $1 million from your company and you pay it back you pay them back $3 million in 3 years' time, well, they're going to have charged you, the say 10% cost of capital for what you borrowed. So you might say, hey, I returned $2 million. They'll say, well, no, wait a minute, you actually returned me, 1.7 million. Okay, so it's something to think about. Okay, so what I wanted to do first is, any questions on that so far? So what I wanted to do first was just take everyone through, we'll do a quick budget together. So Kelly, if you just want to hand that out, and I'll roll my sleeves up a little bit. We'll do some actual calculations and go from there. And I'll send out the actual Excel spreadsheet towards the end. You can share if you like. If you phone a friend, it's okay. So I'll hand it out. And so what'd be great is if everyone can just think about we just want to sort of think about the costs of your program. So just to start with, if you just want to think about how many people are in your program and roughly what they cost, you don't have to put their real salaries, but just think about the people and maybe just write them in. Who's part of the program? What are some of the costs there? So just write those in. Bargain. It has the highest ROI actually. Yeah.
Like say if you're only dedicated to this for 10% of your time, 5% of your time, you just divide that salary by 5.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, brought up a good point. So if someone's only half time, you maybe put half their salary in there. Another thing to think about is the organisation will actually charge what's called on costs or overhead or burdened rate. So if you're earning, let's say you're earning $500,000 a year, which is pretty much everyone in the room, right? In your salary, there's taxes, there's workers' compensation, there's other stuff. So they usually charge about 20% to 25% sort of cost on top of that. So maybe just write that down as well when you're putting down the salaries in here. Who wants to be the experiment? Anyone want to share their innovation program? Uh-oh. Okay, so Bob, fictional. Bob's on 50,000. So, I'd put 50,000. I might I might uplift him and I'll put him in. This is just January, February. How many people? Who wants to share how many people's in their innovation program? How many? 4? 4. Okay, so Bob, and what are their names? KG. Chris. Alex. Okay, are they highly paid, lowly paid, underpaid? Highly paid. Are they, so or maybe just tell me the configuration. Are they like what are their roles in the team?
One's the manager, one's the analyst, one's there's 2 facilitators in the field.
Okay. Okay, so Bob's on 250,000. Analyst is on 100,000. And facilitators are on 50,000, 50,000. Yeah, we'll just do that. Okay, so what are some of the other costs in the program that you have? Travel, yeah, good one. All right. How much do you travel? A lot. A lot. No, it doesn't work. Okay, so like 5,000 a month, yeah, 10,000 a month. Sorry, say what?
50,000 for the year.
50,000 for the year. Okay, perfect. Is that the budget or is that the actuals? I'm just joking. Okay. What other stuff potentially? Mate.
We would sometimes sponsor a workshop or something like that, so we'd pay for that out of our.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. And what does that cost normally? 2,000. No worries. You got some bright idea costs. Oh wait, come back. You'll soon see they're very valuable. Do you work at home or in a building or get a computer? Do you yeah? So maybe I'll charge you rent $1,000. Yeah. Or 1,000 maybe. We'll just call it that. And does anyone offer incentives when they do a challenge? What do you offer?
So we're been running around 600 per challenge. So it's say 500 a month.
Okay. So and how many challenges do you run a year?
Say we run 6.
Okay. Okay. So I'm just going to get this in there. And does anyone do any promotion or marketing of their challenges? Or do you lean on any resources? What do you do?
Creative services at each location. We have like posters and table tents and instruction cards. So.
All right. Well, we'll just do 500 for each challenge or something like that. Is that enough? Yeah. Okay. Cool. 8 challenges times 12. All right. Oh, divided by 12. Sorry. All right. Cool. So, and any other costs I've missed?
Yeah, we have a tool shop for prototyping.
Oh, geez. So you have your own space?
Yes.
All right, hold on. Okay. Well, I'm just going to say, so you have an incubator? Is that what you have, or a prototype shop?
It's a tool shop. It's actual equipment and 3D printing and stuff like that.
Okay, so cool innovation space prototype. How much does that cost?
At least 50 up to 100 grand.
Okay. We'll spread that over there. So this is a pretty, it's not a small innovation program. It's not a huge innovation program. It's about average, right? You know, they've got some cool facilities. So annually the run rate, you know, so when the accountants come in, you guys spend $750,000 a year. Okay, so that's a decent chunk of change, right? So there's good news and bad news. There's good news, you can get a lot done with that. The bad news is it's enough to make people interested. So they're probably going to ask for a return. So the thing I really wanted to sort of facilitate here is that there's some good costs here, and so with our returns we have to think like quite big, or we have to think, well, we have to get at least that back and more from what we're doing in activities, and so that's when we want to show our value, we've got to kind of use that number as an anchor of what we're spending to try and drive returns. So Steve will give me. So Steve will give me. He'll give me $56 million for that. So, and his results yesterday show that. So that was pretty cool. So that the real exercise I want to do here is that's, you know, people are going to come to you and ask you about that, and it's good to sort of think about all the costs that are there. So now, any questions on that?
You just show my CEO how to set a target for next year.
No, exactly. No, that's right. That's right. Well,
I was going to ask, how do you consider that equation, the time spent by people that are not in the innovation program? However, you have them sitting incubating projects, you have them sitting in workshops. The total cost for the company can be enormous.
right, exactly.
You have an idea contest, you know, I don't know, you take that time multiplied by 100 people sitting down 4 hours, you got a lot of money. So how do you capture that cost? Because it is cost of innovation.
Well, I try not to, but no, but yeah. So it depends. Kind of if it's kind of less than 5% of their time, it's kind of tough to ignore. But if you're really like borrowing someone for half time, then you should.
You have a incubation manager, for example, on the business side.
Yeah.
He's taking care of 3 or 4 projects and running his own
Oh yeah.
innovation management, his side of it. You know, do we
Well,
consider that or not?
so it
Ideation or anything. It's the business side, people and resources that are being put into the program, and that can be much more than yours.
correct. Okay, so.
It's a very massive thing.
Right, so the company itself might be doing other activities. The business unit might have. So let's say I don't know what org, but let's say like you have a product division, right, or someone who's looking after products. Yeah, good point. It's definitely when you sort of incubate a project and give it to them. They're really just doing their job and developing the product out, if that makes sense. So you wouldn't consider that part of the innovation program. You're actually helping them be successful later. I mean, you want to keep track of how it goes, but I wouldn't include those costs.
So that would be considered like a one-time cost as opposed to an ongoing cost.
Right, exactly. Well, it's actually kind of their job, if that makes sense, right? To like develop products, right? And they're happy. Yeah, sure.
There is then a maintenance component that would have to be added on an annual, ongoing basis.
Full-
Like upgrades and making certain that you have the right licenses, every model configuration work, all of that.
Yeah. So you're talking about the costs of the IT costs for the yeah. There would be for sure. Yeah. Any other questions? Cool. So that's kind of the cost side. We've calculated that. What I was going to grab now. And let's talk about the positive side, so the benefits. So the good news is like I said, there's absolutely off the charts returns of what you can get out of the program. Like and does anyone have a cool story of a great return that they've got from their program so far? 'Cause I've got a bunch of examples. No one wants to share? Okay. But when it comes down to it, when the finance guys come looking for it, they basically want to know, what are the revenues? So is there new products? Is there new services that came out of this? Additional sales, right? And then what were the costs? So what are the savings from the labor, the materials, Do we have less materials used, less people required, higher productivity? Is there process improvements, areas of waste that we're stopping, reuse of stuff? There's so many benefits that you can get. There's also kind of softer benefits as well. So while you're waiting for the 6 months sometimes for the project to return results, there's things these are a bit harder to quantify. So employee engagement. Does anyone have any good examples of that for employee engagement in their organization?
How many people have received training on innovation tools like design thinking or in startup?
Yep.
How many people are participating in innovation activities?
Yep. And so they're really good metrics to say what people are participating, engagement. They're good, and what might be some like follow-on so now I'm saying, okay, cool. There was a lot of people engaged, but what money did I get out of it? What does anyone have any ideas or clues? So one example might be employees retained longer. Okay, so the cost to retain an employee is if an employee leaves, I think it's about $15,000 depending on the organisation to rehire, to spend on finding that person. So if you can get people engaged and they're happy, they're less likely to leave, right? So you can actually positively impact that. It might be a softer one, but it actually has quite a big impact. So, and then they might be more productive, right? So if you've got people who are disengaged with the organisation, not happy, and then all of a sudden, they're able to contribute, they feel their ideas are contributing, they're actually being more productive, and you can actually do more with less people, right? So there are actually hard results, and HR, if you go to your HR people, they love this. They're like, if we can get this is fantastic.
But then how do you measure productivity? How do you measure productivity? And that's always the biggest item.
Yeah, so it's a little tough unless you're in a plant or something like that there are already productivity measures around. You have to take a little bit of an estimate and a swag, but if you but I've got some examples coming up. It sort of talks about that. It's actually the first example to at least make a projection on the impact that you would have. One specific example though is watching what the retention numbers do in the company or the people who are engaged. You can actually get hard benefits to say. Typically, we lose 10% of our employees every year, okay? But in this, when people were engaged, those employees we went to 5%, right? For all the people who contributed ideas, you can actually.
Unless the engagement is not, unless the retention is not a problem, which could mean you really have people who can't leave.
Possibly that is a problem.
So if you're measuring that, then how do you know that you have the right people who can leave?
Well, that's a different. Yeah, right. That's right. Correct. Another one is maybe customer satisfaction, customer retention. Okay, but that leads to real revenue loss avoidance. Okay, so if that's another one, and then this comes back to your point. If you have a culture of innovation, it just attracts people who are engaged and really want to make a difference. Okay, so I know, for instance, working at Bright Idea, everyone's everyone's enthusiastic, they're passionate about their job. It just attracts like a certain type of people. So this is an actual huge benefit, and no one would argue say Google doesn't have that momentum, right? People just go work at Google because it's Google, and they're doing really important things in the world. So that's another one. So what I've put together is actually an innovation returns by app, and it's actually an example for both the impact that the app made to the business, and then the impact it could make to the team. So I've actually tried to use some real examples. I've changed the numbers a little bit from both my experience and others, and so this is the innovation team, and then this is the app. So I'll go through that. So first one I talked about is the Discuss app. So that's sort of like allowing you to do a CEO challenge or other things like that, kind of ignite engagement or host a global CEO challenge or conversation. So here's an example of exactly what you're talking about. The organisation might have 5,000 employees fully engaged and not really focused on what the customer's theme is. What I've what I've got here is, as a finance guy, how would I go and extract the value out of this innovation thing? And the way to do it, typically do it, is talk about the goal and the problem. Talk about the current situation or the current baseline. So what would happen today before we did anything? And then what changed? So what changed in the new, what's new in the situation? Again, then sort of writing out the financial impact, if you like, and then putting in the spreadsheet value. So I'll go through this first one, and then we can actually. Would you prefer to do it in the spreadsheet or on the PowerPoint? Who likes spreadsheets? PowerPoint. Okay, cool.
I don't care.
Yeah.
So you've got under the financial impact example column, you have, looks like both tangible and intangible benefits. So you're a finance guy.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of hard to define. The intangible in particular, right?
Well, so actually, no. So this is, based on my experience, when I first came to North America, I came to sort of run the North American business unit of this company I was in. And I got here, and I was supposed to have a... No worries. And when I got here, it was about 2007, 2008. Had all these projects, and this business unit was humming and ready to go. And literally, about 6 months before I came, there was like the oil and gas price dipped, and the commodities, and everything went terrible. And I got there, and my major project, it wasn't turned on, so I apologise. So my major project was that I was working with this client was cancelled, and I said, "This is crazy. We provide safety benefits. We provide, massive cost savings. You're going to be able to produce more oil. Like, why are you not doing this?" And the reason was they didn't have a defensible business case, right? And I made it. I said, "This is crazy." And I'm talking to these guys. I said, "Yeah, they made a decision, but there's nothing we can do now. It's gone, right?" And it made a big impact to me that now, any time I did a project, I made sure I did this business case and had this impact calculated. But what I found is, as long as you do a best estimate and even run it past the finance guy, so there's probably a finance guy either on your team or close by, or girl, sorry. It is. All accounting is best estimates. Okay, so you just don't make it up, but do a reasonable best estimate of what you think you can get from this program, and be conservative. And if someone does challenge it, one thing I would always say is, okay, well, if you don't believe it, what about half? Okay, and then I usually say, oh yeah, that sounds about right. Do you not? What assumption don't you believe in? Because we can change it. What don't you believe in? So
You can still do an ROI, because it comes out as a dollar value, so you can still run your formula.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so I used to always say, and I always used to have a good ROI too, but I always used to say, yeah, and say, well, they're like, well, we're not sure about it. So what if we only got half? They went, would you still do the project? Or are you happy with that? Okay, yeah, I can do it. That's always been the response. So in this particular example, if we did 5,000 employees, we go through it, and 20% participated in the global conversation. Giving a 5% productivity gain could give a 5% productivity gain. Well, you could say for those employees, 5% times 75,000 times 6 over 52 weeks. It's a soft benefit. Okay, so but it's not outlandish that you could get that, right? It seems pretty reasonable. And if someone challenges, say, well, what don't you believe about that? The 20%? Well, we have hard numbers for that. Or what about 2%? Is that okay? Something like that.
Well, I work for a financial services company. So when I say 5% productivity, I know that they were going to say, well, where did you get 5%? 2%? 1%? I mean, how do you even know that you got any productivity increase at all?
Yeah.
So you have to prove it. And if you can't prove it, then you can't use the number.
So if you really wanted to dig into it, you could possibly go into, like, I don't know what the financial services company, but say like number of loan approvals or something like that, and look for it. But this is probably a hard one to prove if you're not a production plant or stuff like that. But it is possible to prove. You say, well, we looked at if you can get the data, we looked at the people who were engaged, and their productivity, their loan approvals went from 10 a day to 12 a day, right? Just as some examples. But you could try and look for it.
So, question: 75,000 cost, is that the marketing cost that you're taking, which is on?
This is say average salary or something like that, right? I just picked a number, and you can put your numbers in here as well and play around with it. I'll after the conference I'll send this out. Second one is this one is a little bit easier to measure. You can get data from HR, so it improves the retention rate. So what changed is it improved the retention rate. So typically we had 10% attrition in the organization. Silicon Valley, it's about 20-30% it depends what industry. Who's got a really high attrition rate? How many, what?
In the production area, we have up to 50%.
50?
In the blue collar, we have up to 20%.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's huge, right? So for you, this is a big impact. So if you could bring that down, so in this example I used 5,000 employees, 10% attrition times 1 month of, and I was very conservative. They're going to stay 1 extra month because they're engaged, and the recruiting cost is 10,000, which is really low. It's actually usually a lot more than that. This would give a benefit of this much. So the next one is looking at like the impact of the team. So typically, what if you didn't have Bright Idea? What if you didn't have like systems to do it? What does this app actually give you? Well, in this case, you would have to probably use internal marketing resources. Let's say 75,000. I just picked a number. But with the Discuss app, best practices workflow, you might require only like less marketing resources. You don't need to go for them for pitches. You don't need to go for them for getting emails out and all that sort of stuff. So you can probably save half of that, and you can do these challenges. You've got a template to do these challenges every year or every couple of weeks, however many challenges, every couple of months. So you can sort of save that. So you can plug in your numbers like that. Any questions on that?
Sorry, I keep coming back to the whole productivity because that's essentially the big number that you're trying to measure with the specific app, right? So let's say I was able to go back and figure out the productivity for the month or 6 weeks of during which the challenge was run. How do I figure out what other things may have impacted it aside from the innovation initiative? Because there could have been other initiatives targeting engagement and performance improvement and things like that. So how do I know that it was me or my challenge that influenced it?
Well, the truth is, it's probably don't. But you could, if you wanted to, if you wanted to attribute some of the productivity gains to the program, and it's a little tougher to do, then I would just take a proportion. Right? If there's 5 activities, just take 20%, right? Or there's 2 activities going on, take 50% or something like that. And I think like people are going to say that's reasonable. Now, as I said, this is the hardest ones to defend, okay? But the next ones in the other areas are much easier to defend and maybe more long-lasting. But this might give you some initial early results to get. But I wouldn't, if the only thing you're doing in innovation program is running CEO challenges, then it might be tough to maintain the momentum and showing the returns. So the next one is the Solve app, right? So does everyone know what the Solve app is? Yeah? Okay, cool. So no worries. So in this example, this is actually almost a real life example. So we're talking about a seatbelt, a new product. So seatbelts currently save lives, but when you have an accident, they actually leave massive bruising on people. So it saves your life, but you're sore for a long time, right? So in this case, this has been a long-term problem. Seatbelts do their job, but no one's really addressed it. So what we do is what the app was able to do. Or what it could do, sorry, is send a challenge to all engineers in the company. How could we solve this problem that's been ongoing for years and years and years and years? And we come up with a solution that basically on impact, it realizes an impact bit like an airbag. It tightens and there's no sort of slack when you hit it, so that people are less likely to get injured. So In this case, a solved challenge could be sent out, gone to all engineers, and we actually get the product to market 1 year earlier than competition. We may have actually solved this problem one day, but because we did the challenge, we might have got it earlier. So in this case, an example might be additional profits, okay? And this one's this is fictional, but it's a huge impact. So there's like 24.6 million vehicles produced in 2015. We're 1 year ahead of the competition. You might have got a slight market share bump, so like 5% market share because we have this technology. Not everyone wants safer seatbelts, right? Some people do, some people don't. We get a 15% gross margin times 1 year, so that gave me 18 million bucks. So I got a jump on the competition. So that's an example of a hard return. And the app itself, as your team, the benefit you get out of it is you can, as an example, it's not the only benefit, you can find serial innovators. So in this kind of quasi-real fake example, a serial innovator actually came up with the thing, a bit like, I think it was Steve, or was it you yesterday, that said that it was a 20-second challenge, they got the prize or whatever. This person was the one that came up with the impact. So it's without the app, it's difficult to identify and engage people in a 10,000 person company. But with the app, rapid solution, you were able to get there maybe 3 months earlier than you would have if you just sent around a chain email or something like that. So in this case, I claimed, I said if I had a process outside the app to go and send around an email, people might ignore it, they think it's spam, but they might eventually get back to me. But I could probably have got it 3 months earlier, right, than I would have before. So you might get a one-off benefit. Does that make sense? Cool. So looking at the Optimize app, this is a real life example from my history, and it's about optimizing. So everyone familiar with the Optimize? So in this example, someone in a mine, that they spend millions and millions of dollars doing, say, overhauls for trucks and for their big front loaders and stuff like that. It's about 400. Doesn't say that. It's about $400,000, like for an annual overhaul, if that makes sense, which is a huge amount. And what they realized was they didn't have a process to recoup warranties. So if something broke down in the first year, they should have just gone straight to the manufacturer, but they were just fixing it and getting on with life. And so someone said, hey, why don't we just get a warranty process, right? Kind of simple idea. And so, the current situation was there was no process in place for warranties or assets. The new situation is, hey, we do have a warranty process in place to recuperate it. And it gave, and basically as a finance guy, the return we said is we basically saved 3% of our annual maintenance cost because we're recouping warranties. So the supplier was now going to pay us or come and fix it themselves for breaking down, which applied to basically half of all the equipment that broke down in the first 6 months. So it was like a $1 million return. Make sense? Yeah. And so for the team, there's manual repositories, spreadsheets. Typically, people come up with ideas. Hey, why don't we have a warranty process? How many times have you sat in a meeting where someone's had a great idea and it just never got enacted upon? Oh, we forgot about it. We never did anything. So by having the system, we're basically actioning ideas, making sure it's being worked on at scale. Average annual return of an idea of 250,000. That's the annual saving we would get. So just moving on to the Hack app. I've got an example here, and we can use this. Has anyone run a hackathon? Okay, did you get some good ideas? What'd you get?
One idea actually was for like a social investment platform, and the 2 employees that worked on the idea were actually able to get enough funding afterwards to quit their full-time jobs and work on it full-time.
Okay.
So that's more the exception than the rule, I think. So.
Okay. Now, and when you say they quit, did they work for the company or?
Yeah, so it was an internal hackathon with all
Okay.
employees. So they left their full-time jobs at the company to pursue the social innovation investment fund. Within the company, they're incubating the idea.
Okay, that's cool. So it was basically a feeder incubator.
Yep.
That's cool. So the next, that's kind of very similar to the example I had. You know, this company was a retail sports clothing store. They have currently an app, a running app, but like it exists. But they did a hackathon, the Future of Fitness hackathon held. The winning team developed a running buddies avatar. Is everyone familiar with what an avatar is? You know, the sort of virtual thing. And basically they follow the avatar around landmarks in San Francisco. And one of the landmarks is the stores, and actually it can drive additional shirt sales for that running past the store. So that's an example of how you might do it. So when you, as a finance guy, calculating it out, 10,000 additional, 10,000 app downloads that were using the avatar so they can track it, and then $20 additional shirt profit per person for the year. So kind of a simple example. With the hackathon app for the team, it allows you to, because you have templates, you could possibly, there's quite a lot of organization involved for running a hackathon, right? But once you've got it down, once you've got the process down, you can actually run multiple ones of it. So maybe it enables you to run more hackathons, get additional ideas, prototyped ideas that come out of it, and get some recurring returns. Any questions on that? So the next one is the pitch app. So really like a Dragon's Den, other things like that. In this situation, similar to a hackathon, sort of, it would be very difficult to run a pitch app. A pitch. There's just a lot of coordination involved. With the pitch templates, less time can be planning and producing it. And you might get a fundable business that you can get out of it. So that's kind of a simple example. And then one thing about, I know I've been part of a couple of people pitching. Everyone's pitch is different, and some people have really good data, some people don't. Some people have there's different. So a real benefit out of this is it kind of standardizes and forces people. Hey, did you put your financial impact in? That's important for me. Did you put a standard proposal in? Who are your team members? By standardizing it, now the pitchers are really just looking at the people who are judges are really just looking at a standard set of results to make a decision. So you could potentially save poor investments. You can better off picking the right investment.
Quick question. So, thank you. My question is around saving on potentially useless investments or duplicating effort. For example, innovation is great when it comes to sort of centralizing information and disbanding the silos for lines of business, for example, and just getting people to communicate much more freely across the business. So how do you quantify things like that? I mean, with this, it's easy because potentially, you're saving on very specific investment. But how do you quantify things like, well, we now have more information. We now have more ideas, and we're better equipped to handle future projects and things like that.
So you're more efficient with dealing ideas and is that what you?
Yeah.
So
part of the question.
So one of the benefits. This is the Suggest app that I had here. So. And again, like a lot of these benefits are across multiple apps or multiple use cases, multiple things you can do. But I just wanted to give some examples. So, many ideas are submitted, but sort of example is many ideas are submitted, sit in limbo, don't get actioned. Okay, whereas if you have automated system and routing and processes, it forces the ideas to be enacted upon. So the benefit you get out of it is you need less people. You either need less people to manage it, right? So you can either get it out of limbo by throwing resources at it. So you might you let less, or you're more likely to get ideas moved on because you're actually actioning them, like closing them and moving on with ideas that work. So here I said you probably look at getting 5 ideas 1 month sooner than you would have if it just sat in limbo for a long time. So that's another benefit you could get there. Okay. So I'll keep going with the Suggest app. So this is where people, like suggestion box, you just constantly just submitting ideas. Does anyone have like continuous challenge type thing going on in their org? No one has a continuous challenge, okay. So in this case, this was a plant I was working in. Raw materials were being carried from a central store. They were being basically moved to the feeder lines in each of the factory. Someone said, hey, why don't we just have like a little store next to each of the feeder lines so we don't have to wait for production for this stuff to come through. Kind of seems common sense, but that's the way we've always done it, right? So someone came up with this idea, increased plant output by 2%. It was a expensive fridge factory, say 100 fridges a day, 2% additional fridges, simple return, 365, that's the expensive fridges, the value that we would get. So the Monitor app, do people familiar with the Monitor app? So sort of looking at technology trends that are out there and coming. So sort of tech scouting and things like that. So in this case, people were monitoring what technology was going on. They were currently using a fixed maintenance schedule. They found these things that were monitoring machines so to see how they're actually performing. So before they blow up and break down, they say, hey, we're about to blow up and break down. You might want to come and fix this. Or actually, we're okay. Don't worry about it. So with a critical piece of equipment, they could extend the actual life of the equipment before it would blow up and break down. So each service is 480,000. They were sort of able to reduce that, and that gave them the benefit they could get. Kind of make sense? So I'll go to the Understand app. That really allows you to kind of do design research at scale. So trying to do it across. So in this case, the real benefit for the team is instead of paying IDEO, how much does IDEO cost? $500,000? Lots of money, right? So instead of paying IDEO or whoever $500,000 to do 5 a year, you could potentially do it internally. It might cost you $100,000 or so, but there's still some cost. But you might be able to save like that spending that money. And that's a significant return for the team itself being reinvested. And then if a new product is come out of it, this is a premium bike seat, which IDEO actually did develop. Bike seat design hasn't changed for a long time, right? But this company particularly came up with the next generation of premium bike seat, kind of recognized, won all these awards, so capturing the results. So it's simple, the output, $120 a seat seems expensive, but they're the premium seat. 15% gross margin over 2 years gives them about, gives a straight return. Okay, so and the Incubate app, I think someone said they were going to use. Who said they were going to use the Incubate app? So I was talking to, I think it was the Black and Veatch guys we're talking to. That Incubate could have one of the biggest impacts, I think, in the organisation, because it really helps bring bring ideas through to fruition or business ideas that need to be fostered a little bit, and also decide which ones are going to be the winners and losers. Okay, early. So, so in this case, I took something came from the Shark Tank, came up with a disruptive idea for an additional business unit. Hopefully, you get many of these, right? So that's a simple one. But the real thing around this is really helping you pick the right, try and pick the winners, if that makes sense. So. Rigorous tracking in the Incubate app might identify the non-viable projects versus the viable projects quicker, and so you don't sort of waste resources on the ones that aren't there, and it forces you to go through all the steps, and people put in their sort of lean startup, their thinking around all things for the incubator. So by sort of forcing the steps, it may helps you make the decision a little bit earlier. Makes sense.
How do you estimate a cost of lost opportunity, for example? So if I run a pilot with a startup who has an interesting product, And previously, that was not an option. So we either, didn't buy it, or now we have a pilot with them, and maybe we've identified that we love the product, and maybe we want to buy it later on. So what sort of the return on investment process would I follow? Is it the cost of perhaps lost opportunity of not buying it in the first place because we couldn't pilot?
Is in this case, did you go ahead with the?
Not yet. So let's say my challenge as innovation leader is to pilot this particular product and present to our CHRO the findings, right? So previously they've already tried piloting it before and they were not successful because there were a lot of red tape with our departments and security, et cetera, but let's say I found a way to pilot it, and as a result, CHRO got excited about it, and we decided to buy it. So scenario one, we could have never run it in the first place, and we would have lost an opportunity of having this product. And how do you calculate that?
Sure. So that one's actually quite. It's going to be easy, I think. Right? So whatever benefit the product brings, you can now kind of claim that because without you piloting it, it would have never happened, right? Or it might have happened a year later. So in that case, I would calculate whatever the benefit is for the product. I don't know what product it is. E-cigarette, who knows, right? So, but whatever that product is, I would claim. You could claim forever that benefit, or you could probably say we probably would have worked it out eventually. We needed it because the competitors were using it or what have you, and claim it for say a year the benefit of that product because you guys have done the pilot. So that's how I would do it. Yeah, and it's very defensible in my point of view.
What about like first mover advantage? The same principle applies when you invest early. Well, okay, let me. So I think you just explained that now, but now that I'm thinking of a use case, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Let's just keep going.
No worries. And if anyone has any questions afterwards or thinks of something and goes, oh crap, I wish I'd asked that feel free to email me or give me a call. I'd be happy to share and maybe bounce ideas and always like hearing of returns that you're getting from the system. So those were all the apps. I would say don't forget to track projections and outcomes. It makes you provide tremendous value to the company, and you should really get credit for that. So get in the habit of putting these in every challenge. Measure quarterly, and if you ask Steve Healy, measure every month and re-look at it, right? So it's just part of the process. You would definitely do it. I loved when he said monthly. I'm a finance guy. I'm like, that's great. I get my numbers, and I get to be able to see the returns that we're getting. Publicize the success. So don't be afraid of the numbers. I put them out there. So share the results, the outcomes, and activities. Get them on people's radar. I would definitely recommend that. Don't be afraid of them. If you follow the process that I went through, and this is how a finance guy would look at it, baseline, what is the situation today? What is the new situation when we've implemented the idea? Okay, what's my best estimate of results? Get some help. There's probably a finance analyst on your team or sitting across the hall, or they're actually really excited about putting these numbers together for you. So don't be afraid to get some help and verification. And thrive. Don't be the Tasmanian tiger. Use ROI to your advantage and don't become extinct. I'll send out some resources, some links. There's some links around capturing impact of innovation, recording projections and outcomes, the innovation budget stuff that we had today. Any other? I'll put my contact details. Any other questions anyone has? Was it helpful? Is it good? Okay. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks.